Okay, so let's get started again. So this will be the last module for week 3. So as we decided, like as I was telling you towards the beginning of this particular week, after covering this waste characterization, some of this data analysis, we'll start looking at municipal solid waste management rules of 2016. Then we'll talk a little bit about Swachh Bharat mission and as well as the smart cities. So for this particular module, I will focus on MSW rules of 2016. And if possible, we'll try to look at smart cities as well, or if not, then smart cities and other aspect we'll try to cover in the first module of next week. So let's start at this rule. And unlike previous slides, as you know, the rules gets a little bit boring. So there are a lot of text on these slides. I apologize for that. But there is nothing can be done. Rules are rules, and most of the material that you will see in the slides essentially is you can say has been taken from this waste management rules, which just came out last year. And I have tried to make it a little bit interesting by putting some sketches, some diagrams and other stuff to explain it nicely. And there are a lot of text for you to read, so you can use this. I encourage you to read the rule as well. At least look at the rules, go over that if you don't read it line by line. And this set of slides you can use for you as a summary of the rule. So at least you can read these slides carefully, because these are important. We need to follow those rules. So we need to know what those rules are. So there is a different, there is the organizational structure for that rule. There is the Ministry of, we have Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, Ministry of Urban Development. There are lots of all these different ministries which is involved in this rule. Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Power, so all these different ministries which are being involved. Then from this ministry comes to this our different bodies like the Central Pollution Control Board, State Pollution Control Board, District Magistrate, Urban Development, Rural Development, Research Centers, academic units. And then here we have essentially the waste generators in terms of industrial units, manufacturers, brand owners, me and you as a waste generator, like or anybody, like urban local bodies, village panchayats, all those different aspects. So all these different units are involved in a MSW management role at some part or other. All these different units are involved in MSW management. So that's in terms of the organization structure. And then areas of application, we have in terms of area of application, one of the most important that we see and which is more relevant for this particular course is the urban local body. Because what we said, as I said in the very beginning of the course, I'm not going to focus too much on the rural area. So this the title of this course is Integrated Waste Management for Smart Cities. As the country is focusing on development of several smart cities, we have a list of more than 100 now, and we have I will give you some examples in as part of this class. I will give you some like a on-field examples. We have visited some fields, some of these smart cities. In fact, we have visited several of the first 20 that is for the first 20 list of the smart city, and I'll try to give you summary of at least few of them. Like what is the ground realities and what they are doing right now and what they should do in terms of taking it to a smart city level. So this urban local body, which is essentially responsible for management of solid waste, management of municipal solid waste, will have a lot of discussion associated with that. ULBs are trying their best. There are a lot of enthusiasm has come also in the country after this Swachh Bharat mission initiative and looking at and the smart city initiative. There's a lot of enthusiasm is there. What is needed is a proper planning. And don't repeat the mistake that we have been doing earlier. Composting is great. I'm not against compost, but compost may not work everywhere. We have to realize that. Same thing with any technology. All the technologies which have been working anywhere in the world, they are good technologies, but it may not work in Indian context. So we have to really be very careful, judiciously invest our money so that we don't end up having that problem. So don't, and again I will say that we need to do things we have to do things quickly, but not in a haste. So again, what I said earlier in few videos earlier, that jaldi karna hai but jaldbazi nahi karna hai. So that's the thing. We have to be a little bit do a proper planning on that. And there are a lot of DPRs being made. I myself has been involved in reviewing of several DPRs from several ULBs in the country. So that's there are some steps are going in good direction, but there is still, I see a lot of things we are trying to, we are actually, if we are not very careful, we'll be repeating the mistake that has been done earlier, and then we again after 10 years from now we'll be saying that, oh, we should have done it a little bit better. So we should try to avoid that. So urban local body is where it's the most of the focus will be in this particular course, which has been and then of course with this notified area industrial. These are some of the terminology which came from that report, from that MSW rules 2016. Now this it also applied in the area of control of Indian Railway, ports, harbor, airport, and those things, those areas are also it is applied. Then special economic zone, that also comes under MSW management rules. Then place of pilgrims, religious and historical important, that also comes under municipal. And then every domestic, institutional, commercial and non-residential solid waste generator situated in the area. So these are all, they come under MSW management rules. So say for example, if you if you live in a railway locality, you have to follow municipal solid waste rule. If you are living under a military establishment, say Air Force Station, I'm sitting in Kharagpur right now, so it's even say Kalaikunda for that matter, Air Force Base, they have to follow municipal solid waste management rules. So it's not, nobody is exempt, and so those are the different areas where people have to follow this waste management rules. And there are a lot of waste generators as being identified in the rules. Every household is a waste generator. We have household, event organizer, street vendors, market association, hotels, residence welfare, and gated community having more than 5,000 square meters. So all these are put as a waste generator. So they have been given certain responsibility in terms of this municipal solid waste management rules that we have. Again, it's pretty much similar than what it was earlier in 2011, with certain differences, and I'll try to highlight some of these differences. One of these major one is segregate. So what is the duty of the waste generator? So all these waste generators, what is expected of them in terms of doing their part as per the MSW management rules? They need to segregate and store the waste generated by them in 3 separate streams. So now we have been talking about one of the key point of MSW management rule 2016 is source segregation. If we can do this source segregation, that's actually very, very critical part. It's if we can do the source segregation really well, if we can at least keep our wet waste and dry waste separately. And there are three streams that we talked about here. They are the biodegradable, which is essentially your wet waste, and then we have this non-biodegradable, which is essentially your dry waste, and then you have a domestic hazardous waste. Domestic hazardous waste you will not have that much. So essentially, even this wet and dry, if there is a two-way, and then domestic hazardous waste can be collected from time to time as well. Even in the Western world, this what they do, they try to do this wet and dry separation. Even if you go to Europe and other places, at least they try to do this wet and dry separation. And dry, again, they can separate it into different recyclables. That's a different matter, either at the house level, or initially when they started it with doing wet and dry separate. They will take the dry and do that, take it to a material recycling facility and try to do the recyclable separation over there, rather than doing it at a household level, because more separation you have at the household level, more trucks you require to collect them as well. Or you can have multiple components in the same truck, so it requires more sophistication. And to go to a more sophisticated level, say in Indian context, we are with all due respect, if we are all due humility, or we have to accept the fact that in the waste management is, at least in general in the country, there are some good pockets happening in the country, but in general in the waste management we are kind of just started. We have just started working on it. So if we make it too complicated, it becomes very difficult to manage, and we don't have the infrastructure to support that. So if we say that, okay, you will have multiple components in the recyclables, and then we bring one truck and mix all those recyclables together in the truck, when the common people see that, said, why should I do this separation? So at least waste and dry, and this hazardous waste component can be collected once in a while. That's what they do in say, I have lived in US and Canada and other places. They do wet and dry, and many places they are doing this wet and dry separation, and this household hazardous waste is collected once in 6 months, or because they are not that much anyway. There will be like few kgs produced from a like a standard household in a year. So you just have a specific drive for that. You collect it every 3 months or 6 months or 12 months, rather than doing that collection in a very regular interval. You don't need to, because everything requires money. So at least if you can do this wet and dry separation, and then take the wet waste and do this composting on an anaerobic digester, whatever works for that particular city. We have to look at the economics as well, very, very critical. And then in terms of the dry waste, can be taken to a recycling facility, material recycling facility. We can sort it out, we can take different components, whatever could be recycled had to be recycled, and the residual from the recycling facility, residual from the anaerobic from the compost plant, there will be some reject in the compost plant. There are certain things which cannot be recycled at all. If they have a good calorific value, go for waste to energy. If not, we need a place as an engineered landfill. Unfortunately, we may not like it. Many people, like I have, when I talk about it, many people say we don't have a space for landfill in this country. We need to make a space. We don't have any other option, because even if you go and do, I'm not saying you dump everything into the landfill, but even if you do very good in terms of source separation, do some composting, anaerobic digester, recycling, there will always be some, even the waste to energy plant, the residual from the waste to energy plant, the ash that is produced, where you will keep that. So there will be there will be some residual which has to go to a landfill. Look at the Western European countries like Germany, Denmark and other places. They have been working on waste management for last 40-50 years. Even after 40-50 years, they are sending 8 to 10% of their waste to the landfill. If their technology was how come in India we can survive without having a landfill? That's not going to work. It sounds good, but that's not practical. So it's no person who has a real knowledge of solid waste management will tell that we can survive without a landfill. If somebody pretend to say that, I'm sorry, that person probably doesn't know solid waste management. So I may sound harsh, but that's the reality, and I have traveled around the world, so I can say that with good command on that. So it's if we can do this biodegradable, and it's a wet and dry separation, and do all those composting, anaerobic digester, if possible, waste to energy, calorific value has to work, and then whatever is the residual comes out, try to recycle some of those out of that too. But there will always be some fraction which needs a landfill. So if you don't have a space for landfill, make a space for landfill, because you will need it. But you can make your other process such that your landfill can last for a longer period of time. What we are doing right now is rather than say we don't want landfill, and then what happens is we are just dumping them in an unengineered fashion. We are just polluting the environment. Engineered landfill will be much better than what we are doing today. So, but again, mind it, I'm not saying that we have to send entire waste to the landfill. I'm saying that landfill will also be needed after we have exhausted composting, anaerobic digester and waste to energy, and based on how they work from an economic from the economic point of view. So, but the segregation is very, very critical, and that's it's really good that new municipal solid waste management rules has kind of brought that up, where we need to segregate that, at least wet and dry. Again, if you do the wet and dry separately, we have to collect them separately, or we need a truck which has a separate components. And I'll try to show you some of those examples in the collection site. I will where it is done separate collection for that. Then there are other requirements that the sanitary waste must be wrapped in pouches. That's okay. That's manufacturer, brand owners are placed in a bin. Should be wrapped in pouches provided by the manufacturers or brand owners. So these are some of the stuff. I don't know how practical they are, but this brand, because they place them in the bin for dry waste or non-biodegradable waste. And then there should not be any littering, no burning of the property, no burying of the solid waste generated by him on the street, open place, outside his premise, in drain or water body. So those things are good practices, which is which is needed. It's kind of basic, I would say, basic common sense things that people should do in terms of the waste management. Here are some pictures. You can see this is like a wet and dry separate collection here from one of the one of our like a smart cities, like it's if you, as you can see, wet and dry separate collection. On top, this is a bin for that. At the bottom, as you can see, this truck has two components. They have a Sukha Kachra and the Gila Kachra, and this is from the Indore. Indore was in news as the Swachh Sarveshan survey. Indore actually, I will show you more detail about Indore. Indore has recently made a lot of progress in terms of waste management. It may not be a perfect system, but since their system has been improved quite a bit, people are happy. That's why they got that first prize in the Swachh Sarveshan survey. If you go to Indore, and if you look at their waste management, and that you may not be say that, oh, this is not the perfect waste management, my city does it better, like maybe you can, if you're from Ahmedabad or from some even from NDMC or in Delhi, you may say, oh, my city is doing it much better than my ULB is doing it better than Indore. But Indore has recently made a lot of progress. So if you are at this level and then you go up to this level, the people see that difference, and that's what they are in the Swachh Sarveshan survey, and I think they were placed in first position for that. And but NDMC was already at this level, and they may have made incremental progress, but and Indore is still here, but since the progress is more visible in the case of Indore, and that's why you see more they got higher points in that surveys. So those and we'll talk. I think I will give you more details about Indore, Bhopal, and other places. So then there are the duties of waste generation. For the first time in I would say in Indian solid waste history, construction and demolition waste has been added to this municipal solid waste management rules. So construction and demolition waste has been this is a newer thing added. C&D waste that's why I have decided to put 2 weeks just talk about C&D waste towards the end of this course, which is it's a very like a C&D waste is a separate kind of handled in a separate waste stream. Most of the Western country, this is the first time in India we have started talking about C&D waste. So and since my PhD work was on C&D waste, so I thought, wow, why not? So we'll talk about 2 weeks of this course will focus on C&D material, and then previous another 2 weeks will focus on electronic waste, which is again very, very important waste stream. So construction and demolition waste that shall be disposed as per C&D rules. So we have a new C&D waste management rule, which is actually a subset of MSW management rules. So this came up in 2016 as well. So that's C&D waste management rules. Then we have the horticultural waste and garden waste. They can be disposed as per the local body instruction, whether you send it to a compost plant or you can do on your own home composting. That can be done as well. Horticultural waste and garden waste can be managed accordingly. Now every street vendor has to keep suitable containers for storage of waste. So as you can see, this is a particular restaurant, so they do have a like a garbage bin right there. So every restaurant or every house vendors are supposed to keep a garbage bin so that they can collect that, and they will be notified by the local body or ULBs, like how they are going to do it. And this is a picture of a construction and demolition waste particular site. So this is on that part, and let's look at some more stuff. So duties of the waste generator, there is a pay such user fee, and this concept is also coming up where there will be a user fee, and in terms of waste generated based on how much waste you generate, or there could be based on the size of the house, size of different locality. ULBs will come up. ULBs are coming up, and they will come up with how they should charge people for their waste disposal fee, and that's needed. Like many times, people say that I have already paid the property tax, and some places, some ULBs around the world, they don't have a direct waste disposal fee, but they charge it through this. As part of the property tax, but some cities, some ULBs around the world, they have a separate waste disposal fee, And personally, I prefer to have a separate waste disposal fee, because that money then get directly designated to the waste management. When you have part of the property tax, what happens is, based on what is the priority of the local council, local municipal commissioner, things may not come to the waste management, because waste management now has become important, especially after this launch of Swachh Bharat mission and all that. But it's still, I would say, comparatively many places it's a neglected area, so money doesn't go there. Money may go to something else, which it's all based on the lobby. If we have a designated waste disposal fee, that money will definitely come for waste management. So the all waste generation have to pay some such user fee for as per the bylaws of the local body. And then no person, if you have, this is a little bit, I'm not sure how good it is, but hopefully it will happen. But no person shall organize or event more than 100 persons at any unlicensed place without intimating the local body at least 3 working days in advance. And then organizer of such events shall ensure segregation of waste at source, and then hand over segregated waste to waste collector. This may not happen immediately, because say if I want to do a marriage today of where I will have more than 100 people in Kharagpur and here, I don't think my municipality is ready. If I tell them, then even if like a week in advance, or if I tell them that in 3 days in advance that I'm doing this, you come and set it up a source separation waste bins, and I will pay you for that, because I'm not going to buy those source separated bins, different bins. That will be an additional cost to me. And what you will do with those bins after my function is over? So it is the ULBs, they have to either provide the service by themselves, or they have to have some of this could become a like a business where some people can come, they set up their own bin, they kind of have there could be like a PPP, public partnership, any way it can be. There are different ways it can be implemented. But once the logistics are ready, once the infrastructure is ready, then only person like you and me who really who wants to follow this rule can call a municipality, or the municipality can give us the number that these are our designated vendors. You can call them and they will do all these things for you, and they will charge you say 10,000 rupees or 15,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees depending on the number of people, number of bins, and all those things that you require. So then it is going to work. But like say if somebody is doing the marriage of his or her daughter, and they will be more worried about the guest from the groom side, and worried about seeing off their daughter. They don't have time to look at whether the waste is segregated or not. It's a little bit sounds impractical. So we need if you leave it on the individual level, so it has to be done more from a ULB side. It at least has to be facilitated from the ULB side to really be implementable. But this is important. This is a good thing. But I would also like to point out that this is it's. Even if we just do day-to-day wet and dry separate collection, and even if we leave these special events, that also it's not going to harm too much, because many places in the Western world is still they don't do it. So, but doing this is good, but there are implementation challenges, and we need to be ready with the infrastructure to really implement it. So, and then the residents welfare or the market association, if they have more than 5,000 square meter area, hotels, restaurants, they have to ensure anybody who comes under that, they have to ensure that segregation of waste at source, which is actually good, and facilitate collection of segregated waste streams. So when they say facilitate, actually the ULB has to do it, isn't it? The ULB has to do the collection. Or it could be, when I say ULB can give, if ULB cannot do it, they can do it to the private parties. Many cities around the world, the ULBs don't do the collection by themselves. They give it to private contractor, and they do it. And but it has to be facilitated from the ULB side. Like you and me cannot do the collection and take it to the garbage to the compost plant, because we have other things to worry about. We have to go to office at 8 o'clock, come back at 5, 6, 7. We never know what time we'll come back. We don't have time to do that, and that's not our expertise. The expertise is of ULBs to do those kind of stuff. and then hand over recyclable material to authorized waste pickers. So we need to have a authorized waste pickers and recyclers. There, the rack pickers or the kabadiwalas comes in pictures too. There it will be a good. I think if we think that we will do it without this kabadiwalas and rack pickers, I don't think that's going to happen, because they do have their livelihood. And it will make more sense, that's my personal view, it will make more sense to, as a part of the Skill India or all those Startup India that programs that's coming up, if we can get these rack pickers and kabadiwalas to get some training so that they do it in a environmentally and human health safe manner. They don't get sick, they don't get a needle poked into their hand while sorting through the garbage, and they can do that in an environmentally safe as well as a human health safe manner, and they get this skill and they work with the ULBs, and then they make their own living as well as the ULBs can, because it will be a little bit not possible, I think, to kind of get rid of these rack pickers and kabadiwalas, and that's their livelihood too. So there is a social angle. It would be very difficult and I don't think any political party will take that chance to do that, because there may have a political implications of that too. So, but there has to be something has to be done in that area. We need to figure out what to do it. What is the best way to do that? Then biodegradable waste shall be processed and disposed of through composting or anaerobic digestion or biomethanation, whatever. It can be done within the premises. So here it depends on the size. That's why the size is there, 5,000 square meters area. So that's where the economy of scale will come in picture. So economy of scale has to work. So if we start, this is a decentralized approach for the wet waste, and I think it's a good, in my view, I agree with that, because you can have, again, as long as this economy of scale works. So if we can have a small anaerobic digester plant where, for the urban areas, I'm not that much of a big supporter of composting. Composting we can do, but if I take the entire food waste of Delhi or entire food waste of Kolkata for that matter and make compost out of that, I'm not sure, I'm not convinced by any report that I have seen that we do have market for that compost. Government right now is giving some subsidy to the compost. That's okay to get this get the industry going, but how long will provide subsidy? At some point of time we have to take that subsidy off. So we have to look at a solution which is a long term. It's a long term solution which can stand on its own, which is an economically viable solution. So for like urban, for the semi-urban areas, rural areas, composting kind of makes more sense because the market is there, market is nearby. For a highly urbanized area where even if the market is there, it may be 30, 40, 60 kilometers away, and we have to factor into account that after making this, first of all, we need a lot of space to make compost. If we don't have a space for landfill, how can we have the space for the compost plant? So, it's a say, even if we make this compost, if I have to take it 100 kilometers away to sell it, and that there is a transportation cost associated with that, and there is an environmental impact of the transportation as well. So we have to look at the whole, what is the life cycle analysis. Last semester I was teaching a course on LCA. If I think it's the course is available on SWAYAM platform as well as NPTEL platform. So we have to do that LCA kind of exercise on there, where you need to look at, are we really doing environmental good? So for urban areas, doing decentralized anaerobic digester which takes less space and producing this methane gas and using that gas to a cafeteria, to a restaurant nearby, or any usage nearby, and then the sludge coming out of it can be taken out with other things in the semi-urban outskirts of the city, and do one compost plant for the whole city maybe, and then several anaerobic digester within the city. So that's my thinking, that may work actually better than having a huge compost plant or even decentralized compost plant for a highly urbanized city. I don't think that's based on my experience of working at several places around the world. I don't think that's really going to work, and that's because it's good that the new rule that talks about anaerobic digester, talks about the biomethanation. I like that. So. And then once you have the residual waste, which cannot be done anything with that can go to a waste collector and then go to any directed by the local body, and it goes to those. So it's one good thing about this MSW management rules is there is a lot of clarity now, MSW management rules 2000 did not had that much of a clarity. This rule of 2016 has brought in a lot of clarity, and it looks to be more now implementable than what we had previously. So it's a really very good progress, but there are still some areas where we need to actually get our infrastructure up and running so that it can really work in that way, which I've been highlighting to you. So and then there are the duties of Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change. So what ministry will responsible for overall monitoring. So ministry is ultimately ministry is monitoring the implementation of these rules. It will make a central monitoring committee under the chairmanship of Secretary of MOEF and Climate Change. Then committee shall meet at least once in a year, and committee shall be renewed every 3 years to get some new people in there. I assume they will have people, some of the experts in this field, people who are working in places like IITs and other places may be called to be on this committee as well. So because I think we can contribute to that, and we can help make good decision in terms of waste management. So there are some of these here some of the stuff are given. There are some subject experts are listed there too, and there are ministries, different ministries will have membership, different things have a membership. There will be some different towns will have membership. So a lot of stakeholders are being brought in terms of having this looking at how things are going to work. So this, and so let's kind of for the interest of time, let's stop here, and we'll continue that in the next module, because we still have a lot of things to cover in terms of this management rules. So we'll continue our discussion on this in the next module. And I think if you have any question related to any aspect of this course, feel free to put it on the discussion board. We are keeping an eye on the discussion board, and we'll be responding to the question as soon as possible. So, and don't forget to take your quiz as well. This is the week 3 now. We are wrapping up week 3. So we'll continue this discussion in the first module of week 4, and then we'll go to other topics as per the course content. So thank you. Enjoy the course, and looking forward to talk to you again in the next week.